Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. A short time ago I did a video on putting grit between pieces of wood that you're gluing to stop them from moving around. And in that video I said there's lots of ways to stop wood that's being glued from moving around, and some of you said we'd like to know what they are. So today I've got 5 hacks on how you can stop wood from moving around. So the wood I'm talking about today is wood like this. You've got a couple of boards like this. Maybe you're making some legs and you need to glue this wood together to make some thicker leg material. And of course, when you glue it together and put it in the clamps, it wants to do this or slide around. So here's some of the things you can do to stop that from moving around. One of the things I've done in the past is, and hopefully whenever you're doing this, you've got a little bit extra material. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen, so we'll show you some things that you can do when that doesn't happen. But other times, you'll have a little bit of material that you're going to be able to cut off. So what I've done in the past is just drill a couple of holes, a couple of pilot holes just through one board and one at each end. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. Now is the time that you coat your boards. You put glue on both sides, and when you put them together, check this out. If you've got just a couple of finishing nails, nothing fancy, and all you need to do, you don't need to do much, just tack them in, but don't drive them all the way home, and now the glue isn't going to move around. And now you can clamp them and those boards are going to stay there. But what's nice about this is now you can pull those nails out and you don't have any metal in there. They're glued nicely and they're stuck. They're not going to move. One of the quickest and easiest things to do to stop your boards from moving around is, and if you don't have spare material to waste, you can go ahead and coat your boards, put them together, and basically just use a clamp. That's all you need to do, is put a clamp on either side like that. They won't move around, and now when you put that in your clamp like this, those boards aren't going to go anywhere, and now you can clamp those and they'll come nice and tight without moving around on you because they're clamped here and they can't move. One of my favorite ways of keeping wood together, stop it from moving around, is to use an 18 gauge pinner. And if you put a pin in each side, the wood is not going to move around on you. It's absolutely stable. But even more than that, if you have to do some cutting on, say, a table saw or a sliding miter, 18 gauge wire, 18 gauge pins are so thin that if the table saw hits it, it's not going to make any difference. So you don't have to worry about that. With bigger gauge, 18 gauge, 16 gauge, I don't recommend you cut through those with your table saw or with your sliding miter. But 18 gauge, 23 gauge is just fine. So quick, great way, especially if you're doing production like doors and windows, that sort of thing. Really good for that. And there you can see right at the tip of my finger, that's where that pin went in. And if we pull it apart, I can show you what that looks like. And there's that pin there. And that'll be hidden inside your wood if you're not already cutting it off. And that's what an 18 gauge pin looks. It's just a very fine piece of wire. While I'm up close, another thing that I've used frequently is just a little nail like this, and I'll put one in each side. And now what I do with those little nails is just cut them off, and I just cut them off really close to the wood. And now, when I put those two boards together, I can line them up like that. And when I put some pressure on them, that wood just bites right into those nails. Once you clamp that and put some glue in there, you'll never know that those are in there. But in the meantime, they stop that wood from moving around. Just an excellent way of doing something inside that you can't even see and stop that wood from moving around. So are you ready for one last hack? And this one I've never seen anywhere else. I may be the only one who's ever used this, but check this out. I've used a stapler, yes, a stapler with about 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch nails. You put 2 staples in each end, or 3, and you could put more if you want, but they need to drive right in. Then you turn the board around and do the same thing on the other side. Make sure you get them in the center. And you know what? Those are unbelievably secure. And those staples, they hold amazingly well. Easily well enough to put your wood in the clamps, clamp it up, and that wood is not going anywhere. And you'll get some good glue ups without having that wood move around with just staples. Well, that concludes my video today on 5 things that you could do to stop your wood from moving around when you're trying to glue it. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.